Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Budget and Finance Committee of the meeting of Budget and Finance for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. Its time is 11:05 a.m. At this time, I'd like to call to order. Roll call, please. Trustee Akaka.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. She said yes. Trustee ʻāina.
Aloha mai kako.
Chair Lapa. Present. Trustee Galuteria.
Yo.
Trustee Kahele.
Present.
Trustee Lindsay.
Present.
Trustee Souza.
Yo.
And Trustee Wahe.
Present.
Quorum established. Mahalo. Oh, hi. Thank you so much. At this time, I'd like to bring to everyone's attention regards to speaking and or testifying at this point. Pursuant to Article 12 of our bylaws and the most recent edition of Robert's Rules of Order, specifically Section 49-21 for small boards, the following rules apply. Number one, trustees must be recognized by the chair before speaking. Number two, members may remain seated while making motions or speaking. Number three, motions need not be seconded. Number four, informal discussion is allowed while no motion is pending. Number five, the chair may speak and debate and vote on all questions. We also ask that everyone allow Article 17 regarding order and decorum. Address the chair, remain respectful, and avoid interrupting speakers. Public testimony will be called on each agendized item and limited to 5 minutes per speaker. A 30-second warning will be provided as time runs out. At this time, I'd like to recognize our COO, Keishan Kekina. This time, Keishan, please come to our table and introduce any of our administrative staff that is present today.
Aloha mai kako.
Aloha.
Aloha nui, Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees. Today we have with us our interim CEO, Summer Silva. We have our investment director, interim CFO, Ryan Lee, budget chief, Grace Chen, senior director of strategy and implementation, Elena Fardin, director of OHA Well-being and ʻāina Momona, Ku'ike Kamakea Ohelo, director of education and culture-based learning, Ku'ule Anuheo Avo Chun, director of economics and business resilience, Pony Askew, director of community engagement, Lisa Von Sekona, director of communications, Bill Brennan, senior director and systems engineer and administrator, Kevin Chalk, IT systems engineer and administrator, Kyle Saucier, and we also have 4 strategy consultants with us. Kanani U. Art, Parker Spencer, Lindsay Kukona Pakele, and Malin Park. Mahalo nui.
Mahalo, Keishan. At this time, we'd like to begin with our first agenda. Wait, beforehand, I'd like to also acknowledge my staff. Back here that's supporting our meeting today, we have Trustee A. Pohai Ryan and Secretary Summer Soares. Mahalo, ladies. Okay, so moving on to our first agenda item, which is approval of minutes. Do we have anyone signed up to testify? Okay, seeing none. In the review of the minutes, we have determined that there are some typographical errors and that and the links that require revision. So this is what we're going to do. Therefore, we'll be deferring the approval of the minutes for these specific items: A, B, C, D, F, and G. Are there any objections, trustees, as we defer these items? All right, thank you very much. They will be deferred and then will be taken up at our next meeting. Also, though, at this time, though, we do have item E for the July 23rd minutes, and we'd like to be amending that today to clarify roll call to list Trustee Souza also that arrived at 11:40 during that time. Do we have a motion to approve the July 23rd, 2025 minutes as amended? Okay, mahalo. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, roll call.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Sorry, I was going to ask that question.
Okay, go ahead.
So because on this sheet, it actually says present and 11:40. Usually if you're not present during roll call at 11:34, it just says time arrived late. So I just want to clarify which one is it.
Okay, so what did you have it? It would be late.
It was what you just stated, 11:40.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
Got it. All right. Roll call.
Trustee Akaka,
Trustee ʻāina.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahe'e.
Yes.
Chair Lapa.
Yes.
Trustee Akaka. Trustee Ahuna excuse, motion passes. Well, I think trustee Akaka's microphone is up. Is she on mute? Yeah, she's on mute.
Aye.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
8 yes. Motion approved.
Mahalo.
Passes.
We're now moving on to our new business for action item BF 25-77. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on this item? None? Okay, mahalo. All right, let's begin with action item BF 25-77, approval of funding to American Savings Bank for the continued implementation of the Access to Home Ownership, or AHO, deposit-backed loan program for fiscal year 2026, transitioning the program authorized under RM 24-25 on June 19, 2024, from pilot to ongoing implementation. Do I have a motion, trustees? Right, mahalo. Let's open up for discussion. Oh, I'm
Chair.
sorry. Let's go in. Yes, go ahead. Trustee
I just-
Lindsay.
I just want to know what our budget is. It doesn't mention it.
1.5. And we have a presentation at this time.
So can I just ask another question?
Sure.
How much of the pilot program money did we use thus far? And maybe Puni can make her presentation and answer that question. So I'm sorry, I'm jumping the gun.
Yeah, Puni, could you please?
I'm actually happy to answer the question.
Okay, thank you.
So ecstatic because we are, we have actually encumbered about 90% of all the funds from the first track. So since delivering the report that I delivered the last time, I believe we were at 600,000 encumbered. We've encumbered almost another, what is that? 700,000. Oh no, 800,000. And so, we're ready for this next tranche, and we have homeowners in the pipeline that are waiting for that next tranche to come through. So, mahalo.
That sounds great. Mahalo for the update. All right, so are we going to have, so again, did we just have anyone else of our trustees for a discussion on this? All right, seeing none, roll call. Trustee Akaka. Is, trustee ʻāina.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahe'e.
Yes.
Chair Lapa. Yes. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Mahalo, we have 8 yes, motion passes. Mahalo. Moving on to our next action item, BF 25-78. Anyone signed up to testify in this item or speak? Right, mahalo. Action item BF 25-78 is to approval to implement the OHA Kūlana ʻāina program for mahiʻai food systems and culinary business and workforce development as required by the fiscal year 2026 and 2027 biennium budget, and to authorize release of F26-F27 funds for program execution. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Madam.
Mahalo, Chair Trustee Wahe'e. Any discussion, trustees?
Not right now. I think after the presentation is done.
Okay,
Thank you, Chair.
so,
Yeah, it's gotta be before the vote, so.
okay, yeah, all right. Wait, we gotta wait. He's fixing her computer. Is she good? Okay, at this time, I'd like to call upon Winnie.
Mahalo.
Oh, I know.
This mic is.
Yeah,
funny.
don't worry about
We're
it.
just going to hand out some attachments that we would like to update our packet with. this morning. Mahalo. Okay, thank you. So for the record, trustees, mahalo for having me today to talk about Kulana ʻāina, and for allowing me to come back to the board table to discuss this program. So mahalo. And just for the record, this is in regards to action item BF 27D8, approval to implement the Kulana ʻāina Food Systems and Workforce Pilot Program and to authorize release of funds under the FY 26-27 budget proviso. Next slide. So on this slide, you can see that the data is clear that nearly 60% of Native Hawaiian households live in hardship. For a family of four, our Native Hawaiian beneficiaries average about $89,000 a year, which is considered very low income under HUD standards. Over 40% of Native Hawaiian households report food insecurity, and Native Hawaiians are overrepresented in rural communities. 23% in rural versus 15% in non-rural areas. And that means higher costs, fewer opportunities in these rural communities, and greater risk for our families. And this is the baseline that Kulana ʻāina is addressing. Kulana ʻāina is OHA's response to the program creates clear pathways in farming, food production, and culinary business. The goal is not simply jobs, but stability, preparing our people to thrive as earners, owners, and leaders in Hawaii's food economy. Next slide, please. The state has already invested heavily in this space. Policy goals require 30% local food in schools by 2030 and 50% by 2050. DOE now has flexibility to make purchases up to $253,000 for small businesses without the standard procurement processes. Act 239, which I also provided for you here, establishes an interagency food systems team. And since 2022, the state has invested nearly $100 million into regional food kitchens, food hubs, and training programs. But none of these programs or these investments guarantee Native Hawaiians are first in line to take advantage of these opportunities. And Kulana ʻāina fills that gap. Next slide, please. The pilot is built around 5 integrated tracks: culinary workforce offering scholarships, certifications, and farm-to-table training; business development offering financial literacy, planning, and procurement readiness; mahiʻai programming with a focus on canoe crops; agri-tech and food safety. We have food and product development, which offers prototyping, shelf life testing, and buyer pilots; and then market development, connecting participants directly to buyers and contracts. These tracks create a closed loop where training, market testing, and income are directly connected. Next slide, please. In this program, we plan on engaging about 80 Native Hawaiian beneficiaries and small business owners, 32 culinary students. 25% of those seats are going to be reserved for neighbor island residents, 24 business participants, 12 farmers in canoe crop training, 12 food product development producers, all receiving mentorship, market showcases, and direct exposure to buyers. It is a statewide intention, but intentionally structured with rural equity built in. Next slide, please. The FY 26 budget is $470,000. Funds are released by cohort, not lump sums. The plan is for program delivery through an exempt state-to-state MOA with post-secondary institutions. There is one competitive procurement opportunity for a market connector role. And this design maintains our fiduciary compliance, ensures transparency, and aligns with the board's proviso. No additional funding would be requested for this. On this slide, you'll also see a breakdown of the budget and how we plan to distribute these funds across these multiple programs. Next slide. Mahalo. And this next slide just breaks down a little more in detail for you the actual market development connector role, what we're budgeting for that position, and then how much we are looking to, and what we're asking of them to do. Next slide. On this next slide here, we're looking at the implementation and compliance. So I'm just again reiterating that the bulk of this funding is intended to work directly with post-secondary schools and institutions. So a state-to-state relationship in MOAs. And then again, just that one competitive RFP. I also intend on releasing funds per cohort. So as enrollment happens, we would release the funds to these state collaborators, as well as a tranched approach to the market developer as well. Next slide. The rollout will be phased. We're looking at fall 2025 to integrate or to start working on our MOUs, recruitment, and procurement process. By early 2026, we have the launch of the culinary and business cohort. About mid-year, we are intending that our beneficiaries will have credentials earned, products tested, and buyers engaged. The end of the year, we will definitely be, actually, I intend on giving progress reports along the way so that you guys can have some updates, as I see this as a pilot program that we would be extending into other islands as well. So I do intend on coming quarterly back to you with these updates and reports. And then more importantly, looking at how we can start to discuss a release of FY27 funds. I actually have an amendment that I proposed in this slide deck as well. Looking at a release of the 26 funds for this request and then a 27 release request towards the end of this fiscal year. Next slide. So with that said, I do have an alternative option C on the next slide to the action item. I am recommending that we add a third alternative to this action item, stating that the funds would be available for FY26 and then come back to the board, and then you would approve FY27 funds. Next slide. So trustees, the opportunity before us is that ʻAʻina positions Native Hawaiians as producers in the state's growing food economy. It leverages state investment, circulates dollars locally, and strengthens ohana stability, and restores ʻāina through food systems. With this action, trustees ensure that OHA's trust resources are aligned with the state momentum while putting Native Hawaiian beneficiaries at the forefront of procurement pipelines, empowering them for rural community economic development. And for the record, and that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Trustees, any questions you have for Poni? Trustee Galataria?
Thank you. Buddy, thank you. This is hard work. The community of students or participants, Native Hawaiian, all Native Hawaiian,
Yes,
are you encouraging them to join the registry too?
it would be a requirement
It's a
to
requirement.
participate in this program. You would have to be HRP verified.
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Trustee Akina?
Oni, you covered the numbers already, but just to remind me concisely, how many participants are we going to be helping over what period of time and for what amount of budget?
Mahalo for that question. So we're looking at approximately 80 Native Hawaiian beneficiary businesses served over FY '26 for the full amount of the $470,000 for this year. So if it goes well and you guys like what we've done, we would come back to request the second tranche, which I believe was 420,000, with the potential focus on neighbor islands and how we can integrate them into this program as well.
And when we say businesses served, how do we define that?
So
Native Hawaiian business.
correct. Native Hawaiian
we-
business served would be, how would I define the businesses we're serving? They would be specifically mahiʻai and food service, mahiʻai, food service, and food and product development businesses. So in that industry.
These are individuals that are already in business.
Correct. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Steve Kelly?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Bonnie, for bringing a really well thought out proposal to the board. One question I had was about how do you envision the outreach into community to be able to fill our cohorts and you know, get the proposed amount of students into these different you know, training programs and whatnot.
Mahalo for that. So we do, we have already been in discussions and conversations with community organizations such as the HFUU, which is the Farm Union, Farm Bureau. So outreach as far as existing farmers, we look to reach out to them. A lot of the farmers are starting to evolve into food and product development, so they would be ideal candidates for that portion of this program as well. We've had a robust conversation and created a great relationship with the Native Hawaiian Chamber of Commerce over this past year. So I intend on working with Andrew Rosen as well on that. And then just tapping into the state-to-state partnerships that we're working with, whether it's CTAR, the Wahiawa Value Added Center, they all have their contacts and networks. And then lastly, of course, I would work closely with the comms team to make sure that we're doing our internal outreach through our social media and Kawaiola.
Yeah, that was my next thought was what, you know, what would the comms team's plan be to help supplement this, you know, whether it's in mainstream media or in, of course, social media, so that we can ensure that we're having the broadest reach, and we're also you know, sharing with our beneficiaries about the good things we're doing, and programs like this, I think, really speak to that. So I think that's really important.
So I really want to give a shout out to the comms team. We've been working with them to create an SOP program or SOPs for specifically internal programs. I would say that AHO has created the platform on how we've developed that, because we've done everything internal and with them and through them to promote this program for AHO. So it's created the framework for how we are developing an internal communications plan for all programs moving forward. So I would be applying the hard work that Kelly has been putting behind an SOP to this program as well. And it covers everything from press releases to website updates to newsletters, Kawaiola articles. It's pretty extensive. And it also gives a clear timeline of how long all this would take to work with them.
Okay, great.
Anyone else? Yes, go ahead, trustee Waihee.
I was wondering, you know, when I look at the budgets, or if specifically, is it going to, so I know scholarships and the market development connector, but the programs all have very like different kinds of budgets. So is it also paying for other things like, is it paying for like people to teach the programs or to help develop the program itself? Or like, for example, the the mahiʻai food systems is 145
Mhm.
or 12 students. Whereas the business development has 24, but it's 20K. And so there must be more or different things to that program that require more
Yeah.
money. So what are the different things that we're paying for
Yes.
for the higher budgets?
So specifically with the mahiʻai program, since that program's going to integrate use of CTAR properties, their infrastructure, their supplies and materials, it would be a little bit more of a costly program versus, and I'm really excited to partner with the McKinley Community School for Adults. They have a very robust program that we're paying for their instructional time and then for the units that they print. So there's no necessary infrastructure or additional costs. We'll probably do it online. I do hope to bring them together sometimes at Mālama Kukui to gather in person, but the differences in cost comes with the differences in the expenses of executing those programs.
Like as we pay them, they're going to keep track of how they're spending the money that we give them.
I can definitely add that as part of the MOU.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, mahalo.
Go ahead, Trustee Kylie.
Yeah, so I like the neighbor island seats being reserved for neighbor island students. We often, get the feedback that everything is Oahu centric, but I like that you're incorporating that as well. How do you envision that component to be, because there are travel costs and those things to factor in, and so can you talk to that in terms of having some cutoff date for neighbor island participants?
Yeah, we currently don't have budget to stipend them. I would like to have had budgets to stipend them for travel, room and board. With this program, it's up to the employer if they are employed to cover their time away for learning. So that's not something an Oahu student would get from us, nor would a neighbor island. But the additional cost involved in coming over is not something that we can afford to cover this go around. But I think it's something that we should consider in the future, being that all the resources here are on Oahu for now. We would need to look at how we can accommodate that. Another stipend that I had hoped to afford in our budget was even for childcare and kupuna care. Because the amount of time, since we're talking about rural communities, for a student to drive from Waianae to to Kapiolani Community College and back. I mean, we're talking about almost 3.5 hours on the road sometimes. So kupuna care and childcare would often allow them to do the good work that they need to do as students. But for our pilot program, we don't have the funding for that. I do anticipate in the future as we continue to do these programs and considering rural and neighbor island communities, how we can either partner, leverage all this money that the state is spending on these programs and see if we can curate some for our programs. I mean, I think we need to get creative. I don't believe, trustee, that all of the funding needs to come from us. There's an appetite to support this industry, and I think we can go out and find it.
Yeah, so if we focus on the culinary workforce development program, as the budget proviso specified, this is being done at the Culinary Institute of the Pacific under KCC. Yeah.
Correct.
It's a 5-day intensive culinary training program,
Yes.
and it's proposed to touch or work with 32 students. Yeah.
Yes.
So what I would say is, or suggest is, let's see if 25% of the enrollment could potentially be coming from the neighbor islands. That's 8 students. Let's see what the desire is. If there is 8 students that are interested in coming over for this, let us figure out how to provide the extra resource so that they can come, right? Which would be a pretty nominal cost if you're looking at airfare and 4 nights in a hotel, right? Because on the 5th day, they're probably graduating and flying back. So I wouldn't want that to be prohibiting someone from coming. So when you do go out to market to fill these 32 seats, like I'd be really interested what the neighbor island response is, and just about every community college has a culinary program.
Mhm.
So Kauai Community College, Maui College, Hawaii Community College in Hilo, Palama Nui in Kona has culinary, and they feed the North Kohala, all those hotels,
Mhm.
from the Mauna Kea down to the Mauna Lani and the Hilton Waikoloa.
Mhm.
There's a lot of graduates from that program go into that workforce. So if we can, and just for clarity, this is not for currently enrolled community college students
Correct.
in the culinary program. These 32 are not enrolled
Correct.
in the
Th-
culinary program.
This is going to be a yeah.
So if we have eight neighbor island students, I want to be able to support them
Sure. Yeah.
in their airfare and travel costs. So,
Mahalo. Yeah. I think we can get that information and start working on that, even with the comms outreach support. Yeah.
okay,
Mahalo.
okay.
Great. Anyone else? Trustee Galdaterio?
Thank you, Chair. Just following up on the neighbor islands, because that's a good conversation. I'm pleased that we're working closely with Andrew Rosen over here on Oahu. And I'm not sure what the conditions of the other neighbor island chambers are, but every island group, or Kauai has a Native Hawaiian chamber, John Ka'ohelali'i, and then Maui, I think Kainoa or Kajo is, I'm not quite sure who the leader of Maui is Benny Badita them on the Big Island. So we want to, because this is a Lahui wide, we want to try and also work through existing chambers. So I just want to encourage you to do that. Okay, thank you.
Got it. Mahalo.
Chair, I got one more follow-up.
Go ahead.
Last follow-up, and this is maybe on the heels of Trustee Wahe's question. So if you look at the mahiʻai food systems proposal, and it's $145,000, 12 students. Obviously, there's other resources going to running these programs, either through state-to-state collaborators or through nonprofits or community partners. If it is a state-to-state partner like CTAR or some other state agency, then I can, and obviously the community colleges is a state agency, so that I can see a non-competitive process. But if it's not a state-to-state collaborator, how do you plan to go through the procurement process so that it is competitive for potential service providers to fill that request?
So we'll just follow procurement's process, and it starts with us drafting out the, gosh, I don't remember all the procurement language right now, Chair. I'm so sorry. But we did have to do this for the Mahiʻai Micro Fund.
Yeah.
And
okay.
so we did draft up the language that sought out who we were looking for, what they were doing. Chris had to approve that as well, and everything that we worked on. I believe once that's done, I think it goes through HOPA review before it hits. So we followed that process already, and it's on 4 very large Post-it notes on my office walls, because it's an important process to follow. And so we have practiced those steps through the Mahiʻai Microfund process, and we intend on following
Same
it.
thing,
Yeah.
And trustees, I think that's important. And I think what had gotten lost in some of the, very passionate budget discussions we had was the integration of the grants team into the S&I team, which ultimately did not happen. But part of that thought process was because a significant amount of grant funding that had been budgeted in previous budget cycles had been moved into some of these programs within S&I. And so we want to make sure that those nonprofits and community partners and, that are doing this work can still compete for those competitive grants that are now within these S&I programs. And rather than, we're not just choosing a particular nonprofit or an organization, that there's a process that we're going through. It is a competitive process. And for our beneficiaries, that is where those resources were shifted to in this now adopted biennium budget. Thank you.
Yeah, may I also add to that, in that process for the Mahiʻai Microfund and the way that we wrote the procurement document, again, I'm sorry, the name of this piece of the document is just, it's eluding me, but we were able to draft into that, right, with the native CDFI, which was a 501c3. And so we can still draft in the language through the procurement process if we want for it to continue to be a nonprofit, or a yes and scenario, nonprofit as well as a for-profit. We can do that through our procurement drafting process.
Okay.
Move on?
Yeah.
All right, any trustees, any other questions? Okay, we're going to move forward on a roll call.
Chair, I have an amendment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I would like to propose an amendment to action item BF 2578. The amendment would read, if adopted, the Board of Trustees approves the release of funds for fiscal year 2026 only, totaling $470,000 for the implementation of the Kūlana ʻāina Food Systems and Workforce Pilot Program. Release of fiscal year 2027 funds shall be subject to further board action, contingent upon staff reporting and trustee evaluation of program outcomes, compliance with procurement requirements, and adherence to the proviso language.
Discussion, trustees? Okay, seeing none, roll call, please.
Need to amend the original motion.
Yep.
And then we'll vote on the motion as amended.
I'm
So-
sorry, this is the motion as amended.
Amend,
Yeah,
right,
Just to
yeah,
amend.
yes.
Trustee White.
So 2 votes.
2 votes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're amending the first.
We're voting on the amendment.
The vote,
just
voting
made
on the
the amendment.
motion to amend.
Motion to amend, trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina. Trustee Galutaria. Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Okay. Chair.
She said yes.
We heard. Okay. Chair Lapa. Yes. Motion passes to amend.
Amended.
So now we're going to vote on the amended motion.
Yeah.
Roll call, please. Vote on approval of the amended motion. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Yes. Trustee Souza. Chair Lapa. Yes. Motion of amended passes. Mahalo, everyone. At this time, we'd like to move on to action item number BF 25-79. Do we have anyone signed up to testify or speak on this item? There are no testifiers. Mahalo. Action item C, approval to implement the Mālama Honua Home Improvement and Renovation Program identified in the fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 OHA Biennium Budget through a competitive grants process to identify a third-party collaborator. Have a motion?
So move.
Mahalo. All right, we do have a presentation with Kuike.
Sure, mahalo, Chair.
Sorry, Kalamai. Actually, it's just the AI. So if you'd like, Chair, I could present on the AI.
Please.
Mahalo nui.
We can discuss that.
Aloha mai kako.
Aloha.
Ahuna, Okele o Kekena, Kuleana, Hawaii. Owano Kuike Kamake Ohelo, and I'm here in my capacity as the Interim Director of Quality Housing. And with me co-presenting today is our strategy consultant, Lindsay Kukona Pakele. So mahalo for the opportunity to present on action item. I will just pause and wait till we can bring up the action item.
Kuike, if you could please explain when it does come up. What do you mean by third-party collaborator?
Hikina. Chair, if I may, I can address that question right now.
Sure, might as well because they're having a little difficulty
know,
right now. Go ahead.
Mahalo, Trustee, Mahalo, Chair Maritas, for your question. What we mean by third-party collaborator in this context is the community nonprofit partner that we would be partnering with to execute this program.
I see. So that third-party nonprofit is going to look for the contractors to do the repairs to these homes?
Yes.
I see. So I remember in our budget that this first year, 26, is only $50,000. I just wondered if there's a cap on each repair because we cannot build a brand new house. This is repair. So I just wondered if there is a cap so that a lot of people can enjoy the monies that OHA is putting out there for those necessary repairs.
Mahalo, Chair Emeritus, for your question again. I will go over briefly go over the budget in my presentation.
Okay.
Just to recap, the total allocation between FY26 and FY27 is 750,000. In FY26, it is in fact 250,000 cap, and then following second tranche in FY27 for 500,000.
Oh, did it change from June 30?
Oleg, that is what was voted on by this body at the June 30th hearing.
I don't recall. I was in that recommendation, and Trustee Alapa was right across me. There were no more funds left for it to go above 50,000 in 26. And in fact, we stretched it to 800,000 in 27. And maybe that was changed, but these numbers don't match what we did on June 30. Chair Kahele, can you weigh in?
You know, I'm trying to think back to that
That
day.
day,
I'm
yeah.
looking at the budget that we adopted, and the 250 is the number that is in the budget.
Mm-hmm.
We would, to clarify your question, we would have to probably work with Grace and go back to review the tape and the motion to ensure that the number adds up. I just can't remember right now. It could be easily verified because our budget hearing was videotaped, and the motions that were made from the original, when we started the budget deliberations, this number changed from the original budget that we had played on the table. So that would have had to have been changed through a motion, and that motion would we could look at what that would look like.
Okay.
What we could do is, wait.
If I may,
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Mahalo Chair, if I may, I have here some minutes from the 6:30. So, and this is from, what notes that we took personally. And I believe it was Trustee Alapa that motioned for to amend the Mālama Honua program to
Yep.
250K total, so 250,000 total for FY 26, and to show viable results from a small pilot program for FY 27 in the totality of 500K.
Okay.
And then there was 8 votes that voted it yes that day.
I seem to think that that is correct.
And then,
Okay. I'm
the-
I'm glad to stand corrected because I think those figures are more realistic.
Yeah.
We cannot fix many houses for 50,000 if that's what I was thinking about. So I think 250 is more realistic. Thank you. I'm sorry that I might have misremembered.
It's a good point.
No problem, and Chair, if I may expand,
Yes, go ahead, please.
this is outside of the scope of the AI right now, but that day, there was also $50,000 earmarked for our PAIA under 7130 for Ki'i acquisition.
Yes. I remember that for the Heiau in Kauai.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Do we have the ability to project the AI?
To what, Diane?
We're still waiting for the,
Oh, to
they're
bring it
trying to
up.
pull up their presentation. Go ahead. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Trustee Souza.
I guess in the meantime, we'll wait for the AI. I guess, Kuike, first of all, thanks for being here, guys. I know on the proviso for this particular AI, as far as this budget is concerned, I know it says that we're coming back to the board, right? For final approval, right? So we're coming back for the budget today. But as I read on, there's no commitments from the HHL. There's no commitments as far as who's going to be distributing the funds. So one of my questions would be, if there was a dollar for dollar match, say from the HHL, one of my questions would be, how many are we serving technically, right? And right now, if we really can't answer that question, is what I'm saying, because we didn't get any commitments. And at this point also, what kind of conversations? Because I think I had asked that the last time. Did we collaborate in order to put this budget together? It doesn't look like we did so far, so maybe you can help answer that question.
Mahalo, Trustee, for your question. Chair, if you would entertain, I'm just going to move forward with my presentation. And then should the AI come up, then we can work through it. But I believe everyone had the opportunity to review the AI over the weekend. So again, mahalo for the opportunity to present on action item BF 25-79. Today, the administration is requesting your approval to authorize the administration to implement the Mālama Honua Home Improvement and Renovation Program using funds you already approved in FY 26 and 27 biennium budget. This authorization will allow us to move forward through a competitive grant process to identify a nonprofit collaborator, a third-party collaborator, with any final award subject to your review and approval. The reason why, behind this proposal is because Native Hawaiian homeowners are experiencing increasing hardship due to aging homes and lack of affordable financing options. One, aging stock. More than half of Native Hawaiian homes were built before 1990. Two, safety risk. Hundreds of units statewide lack complete plumbing and or kitchens. Three, affordable gap. Half of the HHL lessees report repair needs, and two-thirds of households below 80% AMI cannot afford major repairs. So loan programs like OHA's Mālama loan, USDA 504 and FHA 203 require credit or equity that many kupuna and low-income families simply do not have. Nonprofit repair models work, but are simply too small to meet the scale of need. So without OHA's intervention, too many families face unsafe conditions or even displacement. So, Trustee Souza, I believe this is what you're asking about. So when BOT initially approved this funding on June 30th, you folks attached the proviso conditions to ensure strong oversight. So one of them was the final approval via action item to BF and BOT. This is the purpose of today's presentation. And we are here to honor that proviso and secure your approval before execution. 2, due diligence and third-party partners. Administration has researched existing home repair models, consulted with Habitat affiliates and the Ho'olehua Homesteaders Association, and scoped program design with OHA's grants program team. A solicitation is soon ready to release, subject to BOT approval and also conflict of interest check-ins. And then 3, to your question, Trustee Souza, the HHL collaboration. Here's what we learned. So the HHL has a Nahaza Home Assistance Program that provides up to individual $100,000 grants. So individual $100,000 grants to their leases that are 80% or below AMI. And then they're also, the HHL also prioritizes the oldest homesteads, because the logic is the oldest homesteads have the oldest homes. And so some of the challenges that the HHL encounters is environmental reviews and also a condition attached to their funding that requires them to provide Davis-Bacon wage requirements in all of their projects. So through that program, the HHL's capacity administers about $1 million annually. And then since the HHL's program's inception, they've completed 108 home repair awards. And then they're currently exploring, right, I'm trying to expand that program to communities like Waimanalo, Nanakuli, and Papakolea. So the HHL already has collaborated with Habitat for Humanity and other community partners. And then Chair Watson has also expressed his openness to explore how we can partner with OHA. So the opportunity for OHA through this Mālama Honua program can complement the HHL's Nahasda program by addressing urgent safety repairs more quickly and more flexible. So while coordinating with DHHL and nonprofit partners to maximize our impact, this also is an opportunity for OHA to bypass all of the federal restrictions and conditions that DHHL must comply with, like the Davis-Bacon wages, and in ensuring faster delivery for our beneficiaries. So moving on, Mālama Honua is designed as a pilot to both address urgent needs and to test a scalable model for the future for OHA. So the scope of the project is basically up to $20,000 grant assistance through grants, not loans, to income qualified Native Hawaiian homeowners, to prioritize kupuna, disabled residents, and rural households, and then to partner with community partners that already provide the service. And then their kuleana as community partners is to do the intake, inspections, contractor oversight, as well as reporting. So OHA retains oversight in these ways: fiduciary compliance, BOT reporting, as well as fiscal monitoring. And then for FY26, the projected scale of whom we would reach through the first tranche is approximately 10 to 15 households. So if we can drop down to page 5 in the AI. So the implementation is phased and as well as transparent. Very simply, Q2 FY26 release grant solicitation. Q3 FY26 BOT approves nonprofit grantee. Q4 FY26 application intakes opens, as well as repairs begin. And then in FY27, an expanded delivery, evaluation, and further reporting to the board. So budgeting, the budget is $250,000 in FY26, with 80% direct homeowner grants, 20% nonprofit delivery, and OHA oversight absorbed by staff time. And then oversight and compliance are built in the program, with quarterly reporting back to this board from administration. So in closing, trustees, today's decision is not about creating new funding. It's about activating the funds you already approved under the conditions you require. So this administration has coordinated with BF Chair, completed due diligence, initiated collaboration with the HHL, and brought the program back to you for final approval as directed. So Mālama Honua will help kupuna and vulnerable families remain safely in their homes while giving OHA a tested model for future housing stability investments. So on behalf of OHA's administration, I respectfully ask for your approval of action item BF 25-79. Mahalo nui, and we're willing and open to field any questions.
Oops, excuse me. Go ahead.
Malo, Madam Chair, Malo Kuike. So this is the final approval, correct?
Ole, we are only asking for permission
For the
to
budget.
move into the next phase.
Right.
To begin the solicitation process. In Q3 of FY26, we will return to you with our recommendations on the community partners. At that point in time, because it's a substantial grant, the final authority sits with you, the board, for approval. So we are simply only asking for the permission to enter into the solicitation process as outlined in HRS 1017.
Yeah, because it sounds like we're still doing due diligence on this. Sounds like, so the reason why I asked, Kuike, is when the budget was proposed for this particular item, we really didn't have a plan. And my number one question was, what is our, because this is DHHL centric right here. I mean, it's on DHHL land, homestead land. So my concern was, what kind of conversations have we had? Kali Watson has been very expressive and very verbal about partnering up with OHA on many different things, right? No commitments have been made. But this one in particular, I don't see, by answering the question, 15 to 20 homes, when we're looking at 50, I think you mentioned 15 to 20, we cannot really say that, because if Kali gave 50,000 too, we can do 40 to 50 potentially, but we don't have that answer. So I know we're not approving technically a new budget or amending a budget, but this one in particular, I'm approving a budget for something that we don't really know too much about. And that's what concerns me. It's not a program that's going to take effect immediately. We still got to figure out, of course, who's going to distribute the funds. There's some suggestions in here, which are great suggestions. But as far as DHHL, that's my concern. We're moving into a space that's technically not our space currently. They have their own programs and they're executing their own programs, which I'm very familiar with, that you had mentioned. But as far as OHA and collaborating with DHHL, right?
We don't have a commitment.
Excuse me, sorry?
We don't have a commitment, yeah?
We don't have a commitment. And so that's
Yeah.
what concerns me. As we try to partner up on different levels with DHHL, I'm afraid that we're creating a program that's affecting DHHL. But maybe they don't even know about it. I don't know how deep we got into the conversation. It doesn't sound like we got really deep. In my conversations with Kali Watson, this never came up also. I mean, so I'm just concerned as to where it's a big budget. Where it got cut down from the original budget, but it's 750,000 over 2 fiscal years. I'm concerned that we're making this commitment to something that's not really there right now. You know what I mean? And so that's my concern. Maybe something, I needed more substance at this point. I know, like I said, it has nothing to do with the budget that already got approved, but I don't see anything different from what I asked for during that budget presentation is what I'm saying.
Mahalo, trustee,
Yeah.
for the question. Mahalo for the question. This project wasn't, so again, this is a pilot project. So we as OHA can have the data at the end of 2 years. So we can make the determination on what type of whole housing investments that we will make. But this project wasn't designed to be on the DHHL land per se. The language in the proviso was placed there by you folks, the board, with the intention to seek, right?
Yeah.
A partnership from the DHHL. However, in our consultations with the community service providers and nonprofits, we've expanded those conversations on how can we as OHA, because the DHHL's beneficiaries are in fact OHA's beneficiaries as well. But we also have beneficiaries that reside outside of the DHHL lands. So our conversations in the consultations were expanded to how can these community service providers service the fee simple lots as well, because we're not trying to limit, our resources to only the DHHL lands. So in light of the proviso language, that is why we continued the due diligence as far as the consultation with the DHHL. And those conversations will continue to happen. But if if you would entertain at this time, if we can
Sure,
allow
please.
Lindsay to
Sure.
also.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the question as well. And I think if you turn to Appendix A, the detailed implementation plan, so that is some of the frameworks that we're trying to put within a grant solicitation process, right? So those are some of the ideas, let's say limiting to Native Hawaiian, 80% AMI. And so in that way, this grant solicitation process will actually help identify who that partner would be. And at that time, we think that DHHL may be able to come with us and reflect on kind of whether they would want to partner or not. So in this way, I think I agree that we're kind of at the beginning stage, but we would like to run through the grant solicitation process, identify that partner, and then in that interim, we would like to have continuing conversations with DHHL to see if they'd be willing to match. So that was kind of the feedback we had. We talked to Lehua Kinilao Kano yesterday, and she said that overall, we believe that DHHL's chairperson would be willing to match, but he just needs to see a little bit more specifics, a little bit more framework. So I think it's sort of like they are willing to have ongoing conversations with us.
Follow up, Madam Chair.
Go
So this is the initial action item to proceed, right? So every quarter, he is gonna be coming back to us with another action item to proceed to the next. Is that the intentions?
No, every quarter we will be returning to a report. In addition to that, by Q3 of FY 26, we will be presenting to this body as well as the greater BOT, the findings of, and conclusion of the solicitation process and our recommendations of, who we would partner with in the community.
In the meantime, where does that budget sit?
The budget currently sits in 7140.
No. So my question is, so by next year, all right, we're talking about June 2026, we'll have the plan pretty much, right? That's what we're looking at. If we stick to this time.
By first quarter, we should have the plan. I mean, by third quarter of FY 26.
Yeah.
We should be proposing the plan to you with the recommendation of the community partner.
Got it. Okay.
Trustees, any other discussion or questions you may have? Is there anything else you want to add?
Ole, well, if I may, we're not asking for funding at this point in time.
Right.
We're only asking for.
That's
information.
what I'm confused, because there's a dollar amount attached to this AI, which I'm very confused about. If we're not asking for funding or amending funding, there's a dollar amount here. So maybe we can clarify what this AI is exactly asking for. I mean, if you can.
Yeah. So the AI is only asking to administer the program and initiate the solicitation process of the grants. Yeah, but we're not asking to release any funds at this point in time. But it was cited in there because that is in fact where should we return back to you in in third quarter FY 26, yeah, that it's all in alignment with the budget that was approved on June 30th.
Thank you for that, to clarify that. So
You want-
naturally, there's no money here, even though it's stated in the
Yeah, it's just a
report.
reference.
I see, got you. Okay, thank you for that. So there's no money involved right now. And basically, it's just the moving forward with the project. Okay, thank you.
Mahalo.
Any other trustees, any other questions? Okay, anything else? All right, so can we move forward then? Trustees, take a roll call. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Oh. Trustee Galataria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Wahe.
Yes.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
and trustee Lindsay. Chair Lapa? Yes, motion passes. All right, let's move on to our next action item, BF 25-79. Do we have anyone signed up to speak on this? Right, this is for action item C, approval to implement, I'm sorry, wrong one, 25-80s. How am I? 25-80, approval of revisions to the special education add a teaching field, SATEP, budget approval for fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 for the OHA Biennium Budget. Have a motion, please? Mahalo, trustee Wahehe, and we're open to discussion. Okay, I'd like to recognize Lihua, and I believe you can proceed with your presentation. Kule.
Aloha. So,
Aloha.
the action item before you today is to approve revisions to the proviso language for, what is currently called special education at a teaching field, line 7652. And, for fiscal year 2026, and then 7759 for fiscal year 2027. So essentially the background of this line item was to address the critical need for beneficiaries who work in immersion or Hawaiian focused charter or schools with high percentage of Native Hawaiian students, and to be able to support their ability to participate in and complete teacher training programs and teacher certification programs, so that we build a pipeline into our schools that have come over and over again to talk about how there's a need for teachers. And so the changes that I'm asking for are, one is just a typographical fix, but then two is to revise the proviso language to broaden the capacity to make impact with the funds. So the SATEP that I was intending to reach with the funds are state approved teacher education programs. So I think it was just a autofill when you go into Excel and then you type. I think it autofilled instead of that to special ed at a teaching field. So we want to be able to put the funds into the program that we intended to reach. So that was the first change that we asked for. And then secondly, the language was written, we wrote it very specifically at first to address the tuition needs of beneficiaries in state approved teacher education programs. But what we're asking today is to maybe broaden the impact a little bit and take out the very specific language so that we can include different kinds of programs as well, because there are 16 SATEPs in the state of Hawaii. 2 explicitly address immersion, Hawaiian focused charter, and schools with high population of Native Hawaiian. And in addition to those, there are feeder programs that aren't considered SATEPs, but they feed into teacher education programs. So examples of that are like In Peace has their Kalama Academy. They're not a SATEP, but they feed into those types of programs, and they support family members, community members, parents who see the need in their Keiki's own school or in their community, and they give them the prep opportunities that allow them to then meet the minimum to get into a SATEP. And so if we can have the option and the opportunity to support those kinds of programs as well, not just the official state approved teacher education programs, we would broaden the reach and potentially increase the impact. Yeah. Mahalo.
Trustees, any questions for her? Okay, thank you so much for your presentation on that. We'll take a roll call, please. Oh, good, all right. Okay, so what then?
So let's have,
Or approval for the revisions of this?
yeah, we're gonna do a different, motion if, trustee Whitehead would be willing to, withdraw your motion. And then read it as stated.
Okay, so trustee Whitehead, you're gonna withdraw your motion? Okay. Okay, so we're gonna do a approval of revisions to the special education and add a teaching field SATEP budget, right? It provides a line 7652 from fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027, line 7759. OHA Biennium Budget to read. MIMO or MIMO 1.2 grant funding for SATEPs, state-approved teacher education programs, and feeder programs for beneficiary teachers who work or intend to work in immersion and or Hawaiian-focused charter schools and or work or intend to work in schools with high percentages of Native Hawaiian students. Mahalo. Roll call, please. Approval of revision of the motion. Trustee Akaka. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza. Trustee Wahe'e.
Yes.
Chair Lapa. Yes. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Motion passes 8 yes. Mahalo. Moving on to action item BF 25-81. Do we have anyone signed up to testify or speak on this item? No testifiers. Mahalo. Action item BF 25-81, approval of this OHA Capital Improvement Project Grant Program, components and process for the fiscal year 26-20 and fiscal year 2027 on the OHA Biennium Budget. Have a motion.
Madam Chair.
Mahalo, Trustee Wahe'e. And at this time, we have a presentation. Go ahead. Are you ready? Oh. All right, you may proceed.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, trustees. Mahalo for the opportunity to meet with you guys today to discuss our new capital improvements grant process. This process is new to OHA, as OHA has not offered CIP funding before. This new process merges state CIP requirements with OHA's grant process. We are seeking BOT approval for OHA's CIP grant process that we have in this AI today for you, to establish a framework for application, review, and award of CIP funds in alignment with OHA's policies and MIMO strategic priorities. BOT approval of the process allows our grants team to implement a consistent and transparent framework for administering over $5 million in CIP funds that ensures OHA's investment delivers lasting intergenerational impact to our lahui. For reference, allocation of CIP funds was included in the BOT approved biennium budget, BF 25-51. The approval was for $2.55 million in FY 2026 and $2.45 million in FY 2027. Oh, color mic. If you could go to page 3. Down to section 4. Well, trustees, you guys can follow along with me in the AI. On page 3, we talk about what are capital improvement projects. CIP grants are used for large physical improvements in infrastructure projects. These would typically include construction, land, upgrades, and projects with related to deferred maintenance. OHA's CIP grants are not intended to fund day-to-day operations, but rather physical long-term assets. On page 2 of the AI, we talk about why OHA is investing in CIP. And OHA's use of CIP grant funding is a strategic tool intended to uplift Native Hawaiian conditions. So we're looking at long-term impact and strategic alignment. CIP projects support OHA's mission by investing in long-term infrastructure that balances immediate relief with systemic change that's consistent with OHA's MIMO framework. It also is an effort to protect existing community assets. Many Native Hawaiian serving facilities face deferred maintenance, disrepair, or underinvestment. CIP funding allows OHA not only to build new projects, but also to protect existing assets, ensuring they remain safe, functional, and culturally grounded. In addition, OHA CIP funding allows us to leverage funding resources in support of ʻēa, driving self-determination and equity, by defining our priorities so that Hawaiians are not left behind in statewide capital allocations. Also, CIP funding ensures intergenerational equity. CIP investments embody the kuleana we have to our future generations. If you look at page 5, where we discuss other considerations that are prominent for this discussion, first and foremost is our fiduciary responsibility in compliance with HRS 1017. Also, maintain that accountability with mandated reporting and measurable outcomes. In addition, it's that organizations that have received State of Hawaii CIP awards are eligible to apply for OHA support. That is one of the key requirements, that you have to have received CIP funding through the state or county agency in order to be eligible for OHA. This helps OHA to strengthen and helps us to strengthen and complete existing CIP projects. These investments ensure that state-funded infrastructure directly contributes to Native Hawaiian well-being through cultural facilities, affordable housing, and community serving spaces. Some risks to take into consideration is that due to permitting or vendor issues, there may be delays in procurement. Grantees may fail to complete reporting or project requirements as set forth in our contract. Also, there could be potential cash flow barriers. Our cost reimbursement model that is in our application and our contract will help to address those barriers. And then also too, we want to make sure that the CIP funding does take into consideration geographical distribution. On page 6 of the AI, which you see before you, you have here the timetable. This process outlines eligibility criteria, application requirements, evaluation procedures, and award timelines that ensure fairness, accountability, and alignment with OHA policies. There are 5 phases to our grant-making process. Phase 1 is the solicitation and letters of intent. We intend to have our solicitation process open on January 1st. From January 15th to the February 12th, the LOI will be available. During this time period, we also intend to hold community workshops so that we can help applicants in the application process. The LOI is, you have to pass through the, have your LOI be accepted in order to actually apply. And the LOI covers basically documentation to make sure that you're eligible, so that you, first and foremost, you have a certificate of vendor compliance, you have your CIP award letter, and contract if that's available at the time. We were led to believe that actual contracting with the state may take a little bit longer, just based upon how the state functions. So we are allowing applicants to continue to apply with their award letter. They don't necessarily have to have the contract ready. Okay, workshops. Let me see here. Phase 3. If you could go down to page 7, that is our evaluation process. That will happen between April and May of 2026. If you go to page 7, you'll see the different scoring. Oh, okay, even better. If you go to slide 5. No problem. We can make it work. Slide 5, please. There you go. And this pulls directly from our AI, which is on page 7. It has our scoring matrix and then the point allocation. Currently, right now, we have our award range is up to 1 million. We are open to making adjustments to this cap. We selected 1 million so that we could make sure that we could fund as many beneficiary CIP projects as possible. The safeguards that have been included is ensuring that appropriate spending through indirect costs being capped at 20%, and also requiring that there is some shared investment with a 15% match requirement. Phase 3 of the evaluation is the evaluation phase. And one thing we take into consideration is past performances. If there have been recipients of any OHA funding, that would be one component that is taken into consideration in our evaluation. So since we're already at this slide, what we're presenting here to you is 4 options. One would be to approve the CIP grant process as presented. Option 2 would be to modify and implement a process that is BOT directed. Option 3 is for 1 cycle to run through what we have proposed as a pilot. And of course, option 4 is to take no action. So we leave it to you at the BOT for input. Thank you.
Mahalo for that. Thank you so much. Obviously, there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and I appreciate all of your efforts. Trustees, any other questions, discussion on this?
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
With this CIP process, how is it affecting the rest of our grants, which we are mandated to help our community and programs? What is left for our program grants of our monies?
In excess of the CIP funds, trustee?
Yes. Yes.
I don't know of any additional funding available.
What?
Being awarded in FY 26-27?
Yes. We don't have any more money for our grants for the programs?
For our existing grants, we do have those funds that are still available. Those were the awards that were distributed in FY 25. For FY 26 and 27, grant making was via line item. So there were specific pass-through grants that were being allocated to different programs like S&I and R&E. Then we have the OHA Kūlana funding that is provided on a quarterly basis to our lahui to support events and hopefully to also help them in their efforts to be able to fundraise from within their community and get community support and backing in their work. And then, of course, our legacy funding is the additional funds.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sure.
ahead, Chair
I have a
Kahele.
question. Two things. Well, thank you so much for bringing this to the board. And I appreciate the mention about the $1 million cap. I think that that's important. And I do think it is wise to have a number, and looking at the action item, page 7. Yeah, this would be section C, letter of interest and application, item number C, right? Award amount requested. What I would suggest as either an amendment or something to amend your process is that I wouldn't want the board to be only limited to CIP projects that are dollars or less. If there was a potential partner that was matching OHA's funds dollar for dollar, so we should have the option to approve that. If a project has a $2 million match and they're going to match OHA's dollar for dollar, then we shouldn't not consider that. You know, if I'm putting in 2 and we're getting 4, I think that's a pretty good deal. So I would maybe caveat that or adjust the restriction on that. That would specify if it's a 1-to-1 match that exceeds $1 million, that the board is able to take full advantage of that maximum dollar partner investment.
Before we, did you want me to to rescind my motion? So I'll rescind it before we start amending things.
And I guess the question is, are we amending the proposed process, which is what they're asking us to approve, or are we giving feedback on the process so that they can make those changes and bring it back to us?
Request is the approval of.
Okay. So we'd be making an amendment on.
You would amend, the motion would be to amend the process, right?
Okay.
Madam
That would be one-
Chair,
That'd be one for consideration. And then I think the second one would be, so I like how this is written and it's got a really, a lot of good safeguards on it, which I think was some of the criticism from before, which is why this board took action and did what we did to, present a novel program for our beneficiaries, and with the appropriate safeguards. So I like that the safeguards are in there that the state legislature uses for their CIP projects. However, the way it's written matches perfectly if it's a nonprofit. But I don't know if it aligns if it is another government agency. So if this is for a nonprofit, like this totally makes sense, right? IRS determination letter, all these things that we're requiring for qualification that you're gonna use to vet potential applicants in your LOI period, right? But I don't know if the County of Hawaii has a IRS determination letter. And I wouldn't want anyone to be restricted. So I think this is like written really well for a nonprofit, but I don't know if we need another section that incorporates either the state of Hawaii or one of our 4 counties.
And Yes, if it was going to be a state-to-state transaction, then it necessarily would not be a grant process. It would be something as, to maybe an MOU or some other form of agreement. If it was
So
a
that would
state
have to be
agency.
part of this process. That would have to be built into this as well.
The grants process doesn't necessarily encompass that. It would be something outside of grants.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking to.
Yeah,
for-
I'm not sure, right? The,
Right.
Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Thank you, and good morning, good afternoon, chair and trustees. I think the issue that Chair Cahill is pointing to is maybe regarding the eligibility of the recipients of these CIP funds. So currently it states Hawaii Incorporated organizations or nonprofits with IRS recognized nonprofit status, and then I think also with some of the requirements um, of what the um, the applicants for this program would need to provide to OHA. So I think, yes, as Lisa mentioned, you know, government entities wouldn't receive funds through HRS 10-17, but could receive it through other exemptions to the procurement code. So I think there's other funding mechanisms, but I think it's as to the eligibility and maybe the requirements for an applicant to this program. I think to your point, maybe the Hawaii County being a potential applicant, we'd need to adjust some of the eligibility requirements, right, to allow for either nonprofits with the IRS recognized nonprofit status or a government entity capable of, receiving OHA funds. But
Yep.
again, requiring that they already have that CIP approval or funding through the state.
Yep.
Um,
well, I don't know if that, well, obviously, if this is the process, then that needs to be modified and adjusted to be included. And I don't know if that is as clean as a amendment in the process like we made on the previous action item, or if that needs a little bit more language of finessing and adjustment and come back to us. We have a lot of meetings this month, so it's not like we can't get this right back in front of BNF in 2 weeks, right? So.
Thank you, Chair. I would actually request if that's possible to give us an opportunity to kind of discuss what that language would look like. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead. Trustee Galataria.
Your Mahalo, Chair. It's been a rather robust schedule today of activity. So I'd like to know if we have the internal bandwidth to execute what you're proposing, or will eventually be outsourcing this responsibility, or does it stay in-house?
The intent is to keep it in-house. And to Chair's point, if we're funding over $1 million in a project, there won't be too many CIPs that we'll be funding because we only have 2.55 in FY26.
Okay, so your answer is yes.
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. No, I think that, yeah.
So we had a withdrawal on the motion. And so we're gonna, anything else, trustees, before I read? No. I'm not gonna read that now? Okay, so we're gonna move on. Just continue with the.
Yeah, because what you'll probably do is you'll bring it up under the same action.
Yeah.
Oh.
The same action item.
Defer.
So we're gonna defer
Okay,
it
we'll
to a
defer.
later date.
All right.
Any objection?
So we're gonna defer to later date, obviously, for this particular action item. And everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yep.
Objections? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're at the last part of our meeting. It's okay, it's a presentation by administration.
Yeah.
Do we have anyone signed up for this? Hello? Anyone?
There are no testifiers.
Okay, thank you. At this time, thank you, Kule. You may proceed with your presentation.
Aloha. So I'm here to give an update on the budget line item 7678, funding for statewide and nationwide post-baccalaureate higher education scholarships for Native Hawaiian students. So for undergraduates, about 64% of undergraduates received scholarships or grants in school year 2019 and 2020, and only 36% took out student loans. If you look at graduate students, so master's and doctoral students, that number is vastly different. So only 43% in school year 1920 received grants or financial aid, and 42% had to take out loans. And so there is a need for scholarship in those advanced and terminal degrees that can support our beneficiaries in advancing their continuing education.
Absolutely.
And I've experienced that personally. My undergraduate program got fully funded through grant and financial aid. And in my master's and my doctoral program, I had to incur a lot of student loan debt. And so this funding aims to support our beneficiaries in achieving those advanced and terminal degrees that align with OHA's mission, vision, and strategic outcomes. By offering financial support, we're reducing those financial barriers and increasing their access to degree completion, which then increases their lifetime earnings. So, yeah, next slide, please. We're in the very early phases of implementation because of how the timeline works. So we have time still to design and collaborate. And so what we wanted to do was we have thoughts about what the program could be, but we wanted to make time for trustees to be able to give mana'o as well. I was advised to reach out to Trustee Alapa regarding what thoughts and mana'o might be around how we how we design this, and open to other trustees as well if you want to add. But what we were proposing was to do up to $10,000 awards, so $5,000 per semester for beneficiaries who are pursuing their master's or doctoral in a set of degree pathways. So we would look at our MIMO strategic directions, and we would find the most high need, high impact degree programs in those 4 directions, and then have that guide the criteria for who would be eligible for award. And then we also thought about having providing equity to our students who are in rural communities, communities outside of Oahu, so that we reach across the ʻāina. So that was another criteria that we wanted to consider. And then another part of the implementation that we're looking into is partnering with the scholarship agency to allow them to work with us to implement and administer. And so there's a variety of reasons for that, but even if we did up to 8% administrative fee, it didn't change the amount of awardees. So it went from 25 awardees to 23. And so again, we're in planning phase. And so any mana'o or any desires that the trustees have for us to incorporate into the program, we can meet and do all of that. Yeah, so next slide. We want to spend Q2 really putting a lot of thought and planning into the design. Because of how the timeline works, the budget gets approved in June and then it begins in July. By that time, scholarships and grants for fall semester, it's POW already. And so the earliest OHA could deploy anything would be for a spring semester, but we're proposing that we just go for fall of the next year and we can do a full year. And so even though it's in we would still be able to deploy by the end of FY26, but it would be for the next school year. And so that's why we have some time to be able to really put some intentional thought and planning into the design. And then once all of that is complete, we would be seeking out a partner to help us administer. Next slide. So one thing that we also wanted to consider and think about, and I'm not sure what trustees think about this, is in addition to master's and doctoral programs, if we wanted to offer scholarships for post-baccalaureate training certificate programs. So they're not necessarily for an additional degree, but you get a certification after your bachelor's degree in a specific field. So, you know, I think in conclusion, we're just trying to really gather the trustees' mana'o on who the target audience was for these funds, what you guys would hope to impact in terms of our strategic direction, and then what key criteria you would want in the design. And then we would put it all together and then come back in a reporting to share what we developed. Mahalo.
Hello, thank you so much. Anyone, Susan? Yes, trust, I see your thing up.
Well, Madam Chair. Anu, thank you for presentation. My question was always going to be, have we considered bringing it or keeping it in-house rather than an external party, that third party to administer?
Yes, we have. So we can. That's still an option that we're considering in the design. And there's pros and cons. So one of the reasons why we had made the recommendation to consider an outside partner is just for the, I guess, the quality of the experience that a recipient might have if they go with an entity that does scholarships as their bread and butter. And so organizations like that have their systems and their infrastructure in place to make that really smooth, because the stakes are very high when you're talking about your tuition payment. And if for some reason there's a holdup in administering the funds to the awardee, that has really huge implications on their capacity to register, or you know, just all the things for their enrollment. And so that was one thing that we were thinking about when we were batting around the idea of going to a partner entity versus internal. And it's not to say that we don't have the internal capacity or that we cannot. And there are some benefits to going with entities that do that as their main kuleana.
A follow-up, Madam Chair. Yeah. No, I understand going with an entity who already does that, where already has the infrastructure in place, but at the same time, they're respected because they have the infrastructure in place. They're able to build. So I think we should start building. Maybe consider, that would be one of my recommendations, keeping it internal. You know, one of the reasons being, we're always talking about building pilina, right, with the grantees, with the awardees, and this is huge. You know, I consider this big, and so if we can start to move in that direction, maybe over time, maybe not initially, but if we can consider that in the process. Mahalo, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Anu, are these scholarship monies available to students that go away for school? It wasn't in the past because the University of Hawaii dispersed its funds, and they dispersed it only to UH students. But we have a lot of students that are going away, Oregon, Colorado, I mean, all over. And they're not able to utilize these funds. So I'm just wondering if we've changed that process, that they might be able to apply for the same monies.
Mahalo. So one of the considerations that we talked about when going with the external entity was that they might have the capacity to serve beneficiaries out of state. And we were operating under the thought at the time that OHA could service only in-state, so Hawaii residents. And so we thought, okay, if we go through another entity that that does scholarships, and they are allowed to administer scholarships in Hawaii or outside. That might be a way to reach more beneficiaries. But I would still need to do more research on that part of it. I have to go do more due diligence. Now, if we don't go through, say, UH Manoa, if we do it internally or if we find a partner that does scholarships outside of the UH systems, then the funds do become available outside of Manoa or the specific entity.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because previously, because the funds sat in Manoa, then, you know, they probably had different criteria or rules around who they could administer the funds to. But depending on who OHA selected, then that could open up to more folks.
Yeah, and it was not administered only by Manoa, but at one point it was here on Maui UH campus. That,
Oh,
yeah, that was being distributed, but still only to local students. But I don't think that's fair because, you know, I think our students should have a choice of where they go to school.
Mahalo.
Thank
Hello,
you.
anyone else? Okay, Trustee Galatario, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, in many ways, we are able to address the diaspora by expanding in that way. But my thoughts were with the expanded eligibility considerations. I really like the fact that we would perhaps consider the trades or consider the licensing certifications, because not everybody's going to be a doctor or a lawyer or an Indian chief. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah. So as much as possible, to the greatest degree, and perhaps I wouldn't want us to reinvent the wheel here, which is what I think you're talking about too. So we should go to partner where we can, but like Trustee Souza said, let's keep whatever we can in-house as well. Okay, thank you. Mahalo.
All right, thank you so much. And we have our last presenter, Kuike. May you come forward?
Aloha ho kākou e nā luna ho'okele. Mahalo again for allowing me time to present before you folks today. Today I'll be presenting on an update on OHA's investment in the University of Hawaii John A. Burns School of Medicine, or JAPSOM. This briefing outlines the funding allocation approved in our FY 26-27 Biennium Budget and how we are structuring it to deliver a meaningful health and how we're structuring to deliver meaningful health outcomes for our Lahui. Next slide, please. This program will formalize OHA's partnership with JAPSOM through either an MOA or a cooperative agreement. We are awaiting JAPSOM's confirmation on their preferred instrument, on how they would like to, or how they prefer to receive the funding. The agreement will define scope, deliverables, and reporting requirements for the $908,800 allocation, with $668,800 in FY26 and an additional $240,000 in FY27. Our shared goal is to expand culturally grounded services, build indigenous workforce capacity, as well as ensure accountability for results. Next slide, please. The program will be structured through a state-to-state agreement with JAPSOM, UH. Key outputs include an executed agreement with defined scope and KPIs, quarterly progress and expenditure reports, and a year-end outcomes brief. This framework ensures accountability while enabling JAPSOM and its partners to act quickly to address urgent needs. Next slide. So why does this matter? So federal funding for Native Hawaiians, as we all know, under this new federal administration, has been reduced, leaving gaps in care and capacity. So OHA's investment fills critical gaps while also building a Native Hawaiian health pipeline. that is rooted in culture, ʻāina, and community. This investment represents more than a short-term funding. It is about building resilience and systemic change in Native Hawaiian health. So OHA's role in this program is threefold. One, first, the primary funder, providing the one-time $908,800 allocation. Two, as a strategic director, ensuring the work aligns with health equity, cultural grounding, and workforce priorities. And then three, oversight and accountability partner through the executed agreement, quarterly reports, and annual outcome briefs. Next slide. So the program is staged in phases, and very simply, short-term, Q1, Q2 of FY26, execute the agreement and first deliverables, which are underway. The administration did draft an MOA. We are not circulating it quite yet because we're waiting on correspondence from the leadership at JAPSOM, Kūlana. And then in the intermediate, Q3 and 4 outputs will be documented, spending aligned, and then long-term FY27 outcomes documented, lesson learned, recommendations for future scale. The broader impact is improving culturally grounded services, preserving language and identity, and reducing disparities that contribute to incarceration risks, which directly aligns with several strategic outcomes in the Mani Mauleola plan. Next slide. So our timeline is very simple. This summer, we drafted the scope agreement with JAPSOM. Over the next quarter, we're going to execute the agreement. And just to note here on this timeline, you'll see that on the slide it says June 2025, but that actually should read June 2026. So I apologize for that small typo. And however, the activity will be correctly scheduled for late FY26. And then in late 2026, data collection, late FY26, data collection and stakeholder check-ins, and then FY27, again, more deliverables and next phase work plan. Next slide. So the flagship initiative under this partnership is Mohala Liko Lehua, which is a postdoctoral fellowship program in clinical psychology. So in this program, OHA partners directly with JAPSOM through the agreement. JAPSOM partners with HILT, Hawaii Island Land Trust, who serves as the fiscal sponsor potentially and the on-ground implementer. And then HILT employs and hosts the postdoctoral fellows across ʻāina-based sites on Maui, Oahu, Kauai, and Hawaii Island, while JAPSOM provides the training, curriculum, and clinical supervision. So the fellows will train in NHPI history, trauma, resilience, and indigenous frameworks such as Pili Naha, provide culturally grounded behavioral health services embedded in ʻāina-based community programs, and support HILT sites, which already host thousands of Native Hawaiian students annually with behavioral health interventions and data-driven program evaluation. So this partnership model uniquely integrates OHA's funding, JAPSOM's medical expertise, and HILT's ʻāina-based capacity to address urgent youth mental health needs while growing a long-term indigenous workforce pipeline. Next slide. I talked a little bit about this already, just went over it. Next slide. So JAPSOM's commitments through this program is to develop and deliver a fellowship curriculum, supervise fellows with licensed clinical psychologists, lead data collection, evaluation, and reporting, and ensure that they comply with HIPAA. And then HILT's commitments are also to employ and host the fellows, to provide access to sites across the ʻāina, host programmatic programming and evaluation in collaboration with JAPSOM, and administer the program funds. This framework ensures clear accountability for outcomes, beneficiaries, and expenditures. Next slide. So our immediate next steps are confirming whether the agreement will be an MOA or a cooperative agreement with JAPSOM, finalizing the scope, deliverables, and reporting terms, executing the agreement by October 2025, and then beginning program implementation and reporting immediately thereafter. So in closing, OHA's investment in JAPSOM, and by extension, it's in partnership with HILT, is about more than funding. It is a deliberate, culturally grounded approach to strengthening Native Hawaiian health. So by supporting Mohalali Kolehua, we are not only addressing urgent youth mental health needs, but also building the next generation of Native Hawaiian behavioral health leaders. So with your support, I appreciate it. Mahalo nui. This partnership will blossom into a long-term resilience for our Lahui. So mahalo nui, Chair, for the opportunity to present before you folks.
Mahalo Kuike, that was wonderful. Trustees, do we have any questions? Yes, okay. Go ahead.
Is this a direct result of Kauka Kaholakula's visit?
Yes, mahalo for the question, and the answer is aye. This is a direct result to their proposal and his visit here and presentation before the board.
Okay, mahalo.
You're welcome.
Okay, mahalo. Really
Mahalo,
appreciate that. Thank you. All right, at this time, we are going to bring a close to our meeting today. I'd like to have a motion to adjourn. Mahalo. May we have roll call?
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
trustee Aquino, trustee Galutaria, trustee Kaheli excuse, trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
trustee Souza, trustee Wahehe, chair Lapa,
Yes, yes.
adjourn.
Okay. See.